Yes,
Start.
yeah, absolutely. You're on.
Okay, I'm Barry Romick, Prentke Romick Company. I entered the field of assistive technology as a student. When I was a student at Case, my mentor there was Jim Reswick, and Jim was the first president of ResNA. I was an undergrad student working in the medical engineering research program, and it was through that program that I met Ed Prentke. Ed graduated from Case when it was Case School of Applied Science in 1926. He graduated, he was born, first of all, within months of the Wright brothers' flight. He was born before the vacuum tube was invented, and so he saw a lot of life before I was born. And when we got together, it was a good thing. We started to build some stuff for people at the hospital where he was working, who were subjects for the research program. And 9 years of evenings and weekends of doing that, and Prentke Romick Company got a little more active and became a full-time business for me. So things grew from there. Today we have about 200 staff, a number of subsidiaries around the world, and we've been really lucky bringing it all together. But ResNA and the assistive technology community in general are a good part of my family.
How so?
Well, this is where I come for seeing my friends. I've never missed a ResNA conference, and yes, I'm probably the only person who's never missed a ResNA conference at this point. Things are a little fragile at home, and yet this is one of the places where I thought I ought to be. My dad's 92, so I'm generally living with him on the weekends to keep a close eye on things, but this is where I connect with my friends, and so I needed to be here.
How do you connect with ResNA throughout the year with your company?
Well, our company is strictly in the area of communication systems for people who cannot speak, and so we have speech-language pathologists and occupational therapists, PTs, engineers, technicians. It's the ResNA mix that the people who help select and apply our products and help people who use them be successful.
Would you be able to do what you do if ResNA wasn't around?
Certainly wouldn't be the same. Yeah.
How so?
ResNA is the place where the disciplines get together. When we go to the ASHA convention, it's all speech-language pathologists. And things are better when people are talking across discipline, and that's what ResNA's about.
Very cool.
Yeah. Do you have a particular story or recollection that comes to mind? Maybe something funny, humorous, embarrassing, perhaps?
I thought I wasn't going to talk about you, Dave.
That's okay. We'll turn off the camera.
Well, one thing I will mention is that just a month or so ago, I had the opportunity to go to the 90th birthday party for Jim Reswick. And he still lives in Crozet, Virginia, not too far out of Charlottesville. And again, he was my mentor in college and first president of ResNA, and it was kind of a pleasure to be with him at that time.
How and when did you find out about ResNA?
There was a series of conferences that preceded ResNA. Conferences on systems and devices for the disabled, I think is what they were labeled. Rick Folds was one of the early organizers on those, and I don't remember how many of them there were, but there was at least one that he hosted, and it seems though there were one or two others, and then there were the international conferences that preceded or became the ResNA conference. So I was well tied in with what was then a pretty small community of those of us who were of this interest. And ResNA happened, and I just was at the right place at the right time to be able to be part of it.
Yeah, from the very beginning.
From the very, very beginning, yeah.
How has ResNA changed? Like, what have you seen the evolution of ResNA since you've been here from the very beginning? Can you describe some of that experience?
Probably the well, of course, the technology has changed totally along the way, but I think, and as an engineer, I have to acknowledge that while the technology is important and has changed a lot, I think the more important change has been the way we use the technology. And I think the big thing has been the shift toward evidence-based practice, where people are being more objective and quantitative in the way things happen. Years ago, if a person who needed an AAC system would go to 5 different places to get an assessment, there'd probably be 5 different recommendations. Today, there's a lot more ethical behavior with the SLPs, the speech language pathologists, and the whole rehab teams. And people are looking at evidence much more today. They're looking at the research evidence, and they're also collecting quantitative data and coming to objective and right decisions so that the person ends up with a system that's going to give the best life experience possible.
And ResNA that's ResNA?
But I think a lot of it is the engineer influence on the other professions. Yeah, we're the numbers people, and they're not necessarily, but science beats art every time. Yeah.
Might you have a story about a colleague or somebody that you work with, or a particular customer that you'd like to tell us about?
Oh, I'm not too much of a storyteller.
Okay,
So
we won't force you.
there's not something that's jumping to the forefront on that.
Okay,
Yeah. I would say something about Bruce Baker.
okay, yeah, okay. You will.
I've met Bruce. I think Greg Vanderheiden introduced me to Bruce Baker. We were at a conference at NIH, one of the very early organized AAC events. And I had taken some stuff to show, and by Greg's very nature, he's one of the last people to leave an event because he loves to talk to the people that are there. So at the very end, I was the last one there because I was packing up my stuff. Greg was there because he loves to talk to the last people out the door. And so there we were sitting on the front steps of the NIH building. There's no taxis that are going by there, and I need to get to my hotel, and Greg says, there's a guy gonna pick me up, and he can probably give you a ride. So pretty soon this big old boat of a car comes up the drive, and I get introduced to Bruce Baker. And I could tell right away when he pulled the screwdriver out from under the seat to open the trunk that using a tool was not a natural thing for Bruce. And I learned that he was a classical linguist. And so I figured Greg will keep me safe, and he'll drop me off at the hotel, and that'll be the last I see of this guy, and everything will be fine. Didn't turn out that way. Bruce showed up again at another conference, probably another ResNA conference at that point, the Washington Hilton.
I remember that.
Yep. And so Bruce took me aside and gave me this long dissertation about his great idea about helping people who can't speak communicate faster. And I was willing to listen when people are talking about that kind of thing. But at the end of the conversation, I really had no idea what he'd been talking about. He was a linguist and I was an engineer, and we just weren't talking the same language. But I continued to pay attention, and finally we actually implemented some of his ideas, and when I could actually push buttons and make things happen, I had the aha experience, and I realized that he was a genius, and his contribution to our field was going to be lasting.
What was that called?
And that was MinSpeak.
And his technique was called?
Semantic compaction.
Right.
Yeah, semantic compaction. So it's use of multi-meaning icons in sequence. He went on to get patents on that, and as be the strongest intellectual property in our field.
Great story.
Wonderful.
Okay, we'll be done enough.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for your
Thank you so
contribution.
much.